Hello and welcome to episode 38 of the Bike Karma Bicycle Podcast. I'm your host, Tom Brown. The goal of the show is to bring bicycle-loving people from all over the world together to share stories and make connections. Just like some rides are no drop, our stories are no drop, which means everybody can come along for the ride and nobody's going to get left behind. This time, we talked to Eben Weiss, aka the Bike Snob NYC, about why us cyclists should stop pretending it's actually hard to ride a bike. We might be putting some people off. Then we go out to the West Coast to talk to Maria Schur. Her handle from her blog is Bicycle Kitty. She learned how to get zen with her flat tires. Then we find out all about gravel with Raymond George, bicycle advocate and founding member of the Ohio Gravel Grinders. And then we squeeze in an extra story about the rolling museum that's being held in Bolton Notch on the East Coast Greenway. You have a lot of bicycle podcasts that you could listen to, and I really appreciate you coming along for the ride on mine. Let's roll out. So one of the cool things about doing this podcast is that I get to talk to all kinds of people from the bicycle world. Like a few years ago, I was reading the book Bike Snob, and it was really popular. Like it was the book on popular cycling culture and bicycle culture. Then just the other day, I got to talk to Eben Weiss, the guy who wrote the book. He's also known as Bike Snob NYC, but I don't find him really snobby. I think that he does a lot to connect different types of cyclists by talking across camps, kind of like this show does. And he had another article that came out in Outside Magazine about why we should stop pretending that bicycling is so hard.
Do not scare people off bikes. Don't intimidate people. Encourage them to ride. The danger, again, with the cycling's hard and you got to be serious attitude is that it turns people off. It turns people off. And you need everybody to be able to get on a bike and feel comfortable. Hi, my name is Eben Weiss. Most people know me better as the Bike Snob or Bike Snob NYC. I have a blog called Bike Snob NYC, which is how I started out, kind of a funny blog about the world of cycling. And I've written a number of books. I have a weekly column, a digital column with Outside Magazine. And I also, here in New York City, for Transportation Alternatives, I write a daily digest of what's going on with bikes in New York. And I've loved bikes my whole life. As far as what kind of cyclist I am, I do everything. I have a bike I ride around the neighborhood, take my kids to school on. I ride a road bike, a mountain bike. I do some racing. I ride casually. I'm in favor of every kind of cycling. I love it all. And that's who I am. Yeah, so I recently wrote a column for Outside Magazine. The idea was that we need to stop taking cycling so seriously. And what I mean by that is not that you shouldn't, look, if you're into riding hard or training or racing or whatever it is, absolutely nothing wrong with throwing yourself into that and giving it your all. And in this article, I also say that cycling is not hard. Cycling can be hard. It's as hard as you make it. If you are one of these racing training kind of cyclists, you can make it as difficult as you want to make it. But fundamentally, I feel very strongly that riding a bike is such a natural, simple, easy thing. I think it's a real shame when we get too carried away with how hard we can make cycling, and we sort of put that out there as the way cycling is, that cycling's hard. You need to train to do it, that regular people can't do it. Because again, it's one thing you want to train, you want to ride hard, if that's what you enjoy, absolutely. But when you start using your own personal feelings about cycling as the basis for, I don't know, let's say, inexperienced people shouldn't ride bikes in the city because it's too difficult. They don't have the skills. They don't have the knowledge. That's ridiculous. You know, anyone can ride a bike. It doesn't take a lot of skill. It doesn't even take that much physical strength to ride a bike. And I think as a country, we have a big problem. We just make this assumption all the time that cycling, that bikes are the domain of the physically fit, of the competitive, of the aggressive, and that older people can't ride bikes. Kids can't ride bikes. You can't carry stuff on your bike. You need to use the car to stay out of the elements, you know, and I think I think we've done ourselves a disservice by getting carried away with this idea of cycling as this grueling physical challenge.
I agree with you 100%. And I kind of looked beneath the surface of that. And we look back to what happened to cycling over the last 100 years. And it was the predominant form of transportation for a little while. And then it was totally overshadowed by the automobile industry. And then there was an intense marketing effort to make it either just a sport or a child's thing. And so we're coming out of that age where we've just had this brainwashing that we are either you're a kid having fun or you're exercising and you're an elite athlete or you're just like kind of like a gonzo. So yeah, I mean, the expression that you said at the end of the article, you said it's as easy as riding a bike. It's like there's a reason that expression it's an expression. It's because it is so easy. So how do you see that? Do you see that historical trend as being like trying to minimize people just hopping on a bike?
Yeah. I mean, what's happened over in the last century is that, as you say, the automobile really literally or semi-literally like steamrolled the bicycle and everything else. You know, we got way too carried away with cars, and I'm not going to deny cars can be useful and convenient and all of those things under the right circumstances, but, you know, we completely lost sight of how simple and practical and useful bicycles are. And as you say, you make a great point. It becomes either a child's plaything or an adult's piece of sporting equipment. We completely forgot all the other great stuff you can do with bikes, and it's really great that we're connecting with that again. And the reason we're connecting with that again is because we've reached the breaking point with cars. There's too many of them. You know, it's certainly in New York, if you look, you can look year by year how many cars are registered in New York, and they just keep coming. It doesn't stop. There's too many. The traffic is relentless. There's no place to put them. It just doesn't work. They're too big and ungainly and dangerous and all of it. So after a century of getting carried away, we're sort of realizing, oh, okay, you know what? These bikes we forgot about all the other great things we can do with bikes. We need to adjust. We need to tweak this. We need to rebalance. And I think that's what's happening. I think we're seeing it happening.
If you would talk to this, is that when we as cyclists make pretend it's a big deal to do a bike ride, we are doing a disservice to the people around us. I love how that came out in the article a little bit. It was kind of like, right, it was implied that we're making ourselves puffed up at the expense of others trying it.
Yeah, I think because we've gotten to this place where adult cycling is so much a sporting thing, an athletic pursuit. You know, the attitude that comes along with that is that this is a difficult thing. And if you're not careful, I can't stress enough that I'm fully in favor of athletic cycling and bike racing and all of it, and I do it myself. I know this because I have caught myself, certainly when I was younger, riding around with this attitude like, I'm a real bike guy. I'm on a team and all my clothes match and look at these other people. They don't know what they're doing. And that it's such a ridiculous attitude, but it comes with it. It comes with riding fast and hard. The attitude, if no one makes you aware of it or you don't become aware of it yourself, it just happens. I think what we need is self-awareness. We need to realize, like, this is just one way to ride a bike, and that this should not be applied to the bicycle itself. And riding a bike that way should not be the basis for policy, for how we use the roads, for how people use the bicycle. So we need to be able to separate it. And I think I'm not unusual in that the way I came to bikes is, like a lot of Americans, I got into the riding fast part first. And I had to then realize the other stuff. I think that's the opposite of the way it works in countries where the bike is more part of everyday life. You know, you grow up riding a bike to get around, to get to school, whatever, and then maybe you discover, you know, you have a talent for it, an athletic talent for it. Here it's the opposite. Here it's the sporting scene that's, you know, people are coming out of that and becoming more well-rounded cyclists. So I think this, if it makes sense, I think we're drawing from a narrower pool. We're drawing our everyday cyclists from racing cyclists. And hopefully one day that there's an inversion and that people don't have to discover bikes through athleticism. It should be the opposite. Bikes are not as dangerous as a lot of people think. You know, just as bikes are easy to ride, it's not a death sentence to get on a bike. It's just not. However, it's still more dangerous than it should be. And the thing that makes people safe on bikes and makes people comfortable on bikes and makes more people want to ride bikes and makes it a normal thing to do is seeing people out there doing it. You need more people on bikes. And there's a phenomenon known as safety in numbers. This has been shown in a study that cycling gets safer not because you're wearing a helmet or doing this, that, or the other thing. What makes cycling safer, what makes people on bikes safer is more people on bikes. The more people you get on bikes, the safer it is. So we need to get people on bikes. That's the bottom line. And anything that makes people comfortable to do that, it benefits us all. So drop the attitude is the bottom line. Do not scare people off bikes. Don't intimidate people. Encourage them to ride. The danger, again, with the cycling's hard and you got to be serious attitude is that it turns people off. It turns people off. And you need everybody to be able to get on a bike and feel comfortable.
If people want to find out more or read some of your awesome books and other writing, where would they go?
If people would like to hear more of my ranting and bloviating, they can do so on my blog, Bike Snob NYC. My Twitter, I have a Twitter at Bike Snob NYC. I tweet fairly frequently. Go to Outside Magazine's website, check out my column with them and their culture section on the website. There's a Bike Snob column. And Transportation Alternatives, if you go to their website, you'll see something called Bike Snob's Bike Forecast. I update that every day, and it's a New York City-centric kind of outlet, but it's still me, and it's still got good stuff on there. And finally, I encourage you to read my books. I've written 4 books: Bike Snob, The Enlightened Cyclist, Bike Snob Abroad, and The Ultimate Bicycle Owner's Manual. Those are my 4 books, and you can get them wherever fine books are sold or wherever lousy books are sold in my case. And that's it.
And Bike Snob, the first one was just an iconic. It was really a milestone in popularity.
Yeah, people seem to like that one, yeah.
So thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It's kind of a universal dream to have something that bothers you or scares you and it chases you in a dream. And what many cultures teach their kids to do in the dream is to turn around and to embrace the monster. So whatever's chasing you, if you embrace it, it becomes not a monster anymore. One of those things that's maybe less of a monster but more of an annoyance while we're riding our bikes is a flat tire. People try and avoid it as much as they can, but Maria decided to embrace it. Here's her story.
I've had flat tires when I was a bike messenger, back when I was randonneuring, during bike packing. I've even gotten flat tires when I've been racing. I've learned how to fix a flat pretty efficiently. I've been in love with the bicycle for a couple of decades, and I've gotten a flat almost everywhere I've gone. I am Maria, and my handle is Bicycle Kitty. I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Bicycle Kitty, but I'm more well known for my Bicycle Kitty blog. I am in Portland, Oregon, and for a blog entry for last year, I thought it would be fun to start compiling a story of every flat tire that not only I experienced myself, but that I was witness to. There were many, many flat tires over the years. Most of them were mine. What I started to do was kind of create a process where I would immediately photograph the bicycle upside down or the person who got the flat. I would record how long it took to repair the flat, which brand model of tire they had, and what caused the flat if it was determined. In terms of how many flats I recorded for last year, I don't recall the exact number. I believe it was less than 20. I know that 10 of those flats were mine, and I calculated that I experienced a flat tire every 600 miles. The emotions that go through having a flat tire, for me, it used to be a tragedy. I would be upset. I would cry. It would be a big thing. And gosh, about 20 years ago, I got a flat tire on my commute, and I was doing my usual meltdown. And then I just kind of realized, why? This is part of bike riding, and I love bike riding. I got to figure out a way to not have this be a tragedy. And so I started to kind of observe what bugs me. Why does it feel like a tragedy? And that really helped me kind of turn the emotional response around into it's more of an opportunity for a rest break and maybe even a little blog post and some fun. I do remember as a new rider in San Francisco commuting and getting a flat tire. Pretty much was then going to be a bus ride home, and an old school messenger took me under his wing and taught me how to fix a flat, and it created this whole lifestyle of independence for me, and it seems like kind of a silly thing. It's a mechanical moment that we experience, and it's heart-wrenching to me that anybody would give up cycling or not be into cycling because of this flat tire repair necessity. And so I would highly urge people to learn. If you ever come to Portland, Oregon, look me up. I will meet anybody and teach them how to fix a flat.
Some people quit cycling, like people who just start, they'll quit because of a flat tire. I have seen bikes that have been in the garage for years, just discarded on the side of the road because at one point the person got a flat tire and then they gave up. And it's insane, but a rusty chain and 2 flats and no use, 0 use on the bike, like a 20-year-old bike with barely any other use other than a flat rotted tire and a rusty chain.
That's the tragedy right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane how it can just stop people in their tracks. To overcome the flat is such a level up for a rider. Once you master flat tire changing, you are at a whole other level as a rider.
Yeah, you mentioned it's like leveling up. It is a huge level up as a bike rider. It's also a bit of a level up just as a person. For me, it was a level up as a female person who may or may not be expected to understand mechanical stuff. So not only can I go on any ride anywhere and know that if I get a flat tire, it's going to be fine, but I can help other people by either fixing their flat or even teaching them how to fix a flat. It's amazing to me. It's turned around my riding because now I've met all these people because they have flat tires. I've even been employed by a local event ride organization to ride sweep on Centuries and fix any flats I encounter, and it's really leveled me up. My favorite flat from the 2018 flat tire post has to be the one that I got on my commute. My commute's a little long right now. It's a 15-mile each way. I got to hustle, and I'm on my way down a hill, and, the signature little starts. And so I pull off to the side. My first absolute first thing when I get a flat tire is to find a nice place to fix it. Maybe a place with a little ledge or somewhere to sit. So definitely somewhere safe. You know, if it's a cool day, I want to be in the sun. If it's a hot day, I want to be in the shade. In any case, I get my flat tire. I flip my bike over and I photograph it for the blog post. And I start to get to work. And suddenly, out of the bushes, seemingly, this man appears, handsome man appears, and he has a floor pump in his hand. So he works at a local bike shop, and he saw me, and he came out to offer me some help. So that was, you know, that turned the tragic flat into a really great story and a way to meet somebody, and it ended up being fun.
I don't know if you've experienced this, but the way I experienced it was I bought a brand new Le Mans road bike back in 2007-ish and had my first really skinny tires. And I just used the stock ones that were on there that had no puncture protection. And I would get a flat every single ride. For like the first 2 months, I got flats. It was my first skinny tire bike. And eventually I got some Schwabs and started using some thorn-resistant tubes, even though we don't have thorns up here, and I can go greatly without them now. But when I would get a flat, other people would stop to help you, and sometimes I would get a reaction that would just boil up that would be like, it'd be offended. It's like, no, I got this. You know, and then after a while, I realized I would relax and try and get centered about it and be like, they're just trying to help. You know, and it's like
try it as a tick.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's like somebody comes up and for a little while, it would come off like, hey, you need help with that flat tire? It looks like you can't handle it. And it would be that type. That's what I would hear them say. And I would be like, no, I don't need your stinking help. You know, and so can you talk to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So when people offer you help, especially motorists, when you're experiencing a flat tire, for me, what I would often hear is like, oh, the girl can't fix it. And, you know, realistically, that's probably not what the person is thinking. I kind of came up with a pat response for, hey, can I help you with your flat? Because really the best help is a floor pump. And so here's a motorist pulled over, can I help you? And I would say, yes, you have a floor pump. Nobody has a floor pump in their car. Many of the people don't even know what that is. And so that just kind of became my standard snarky response. And then I had a moment where it delightfully blew up in my face. And this was on a race that I did a couple years ago. It's called the Steens Mazama 1000. And I was out between Brothers and Burns out in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. And I got a flat tire, and it's been a long day. I've got my bike upside down. I'm outside of a little gas station store. I'm eating with one hand and fixing the flat with the other. And I hear a male voice, oh, do you need help with that? And I don't even look up. And I'm like, yeah, you got a floor pump? And then the man says, well, actually, and I look up, and here's this man, and behind him there's an RV at the gas station. The RV pulls out, and it reveals his fully wrapped van. It's a bike brand. He's got all kinds of floor pumps in there, and so that actually ended up serving me well. And I don't say that to motorists anymore. Tom, do you have any good stories about flat repair?
Oh my God, you're a pro. That's great. All right, so I don't play the Alpha Wolf game, and I try just to avoid the boys club type of stuff at work and everywhere, but I've heard that the worst thing you can do in a business setting with a group of guys is to hold the door open for all the other guys. It basically puts you in a situation where you're asserting your dominance. So I don't buy into any of that stuff, and yet when I get a flat tire on a group ride and another guy comes over and takes the tire from you without even asking and just starts to repair it, it affects me in some way where I get into that pack mentality. It triggers some ancient DNA inside of me that says, no, sir, you grabbed my tire. What an affront, you know, and it's almost like we need to duel at some point. And then I'll hold it and take it back, and it just creates this little awkwardness that's there. And I've really tried to just let it go and laugh about it inside, and that's where I'm at these days. But I really did notice that for a while, is that it would really get to me a little bit when somebody tries to change your flat for you without asking. It's a little bit I take umbrage at that. Have you experienced that?
I have not experienced anybody trying to grab a tire out of my hands while I'm repairing it, and I don't know why. I would guess I'm a little sassy. Maybe guys especially don't want to get too close. They might get bit. I will share, more seriously, that there's a local bike kitchen here in Portland, Oregon called the Bike Farm, and it's a really cool idea. They train people. They've got volunteer mechanics. You can learn how to fix your own bike. They have an extremely strict policy for their volunteer mechanics. You do not take tools out of someone's hands. You stand behind them and then you say, you put your wrench in the right hand, you lefty-loosey, whatever the training is, but absolutely never take a tool from someone's hand. So I don't think that you're that weird for being, taking umbrage at that.
I like that rule. By the way, that's an awesome rule, because
it's really empowering. You can't learn when someone else does it for you.
Yeah, that's great. Have you had a double flat?
I have had many double flats, but I'd like to talk about the time I had a septuplet flat. That's seven flat tires, perfectly good tire. It was not the stock tire that came with a new bike, which anytime you buy a new bike, immediately replace the tires. Pro tip. In any case, I was on a century ride with a group and just getting flat after flat. I'd find the puncture. It was in a different spot. And what it turns out is that the rim tape had scooched over just a millimeter, just one tiny little millimeter, and it exposed the end of the spoke hole. Inner tubes, even thorn-proof inner tubes, are sensitive little gadgets, and if they come into contact with the end of the spoke hole with the high pressure air in them and the wheel rotation, it's going to chafe and it's going to cause it flat. And so it turns out I just needed new rim tape, and I would suggest to anybody, anytime you change your tires, really inspect your rim tape. Is it in place? Is it about to move? It's a pretty inexpensive replacement, and I like the cloth type personally.
That's a great tip. And so thanks for sharing all that. And if people want to go check out that blog post and all your other posts, where would they go?
Yeah, you can find me at Bicycle Kitty at Blogspot. I also have a Facebook page and Instagram by the same name. I have a Etsy store where I sell waterproof pillows to take along with you on bike rides so you can sit roadside and have a nice rest break without running your nice chamois. And I'm also on the board of the Portland Society. If you are a female identifying human in Portland, Oregon, come give us a check out. We're a pretty awesome little friend club network group, Portland Society. And also just wanted to mention that I am gainfully employed at a company called Dumont Tech. We make fantabulous chain lube, so go to your local bike shop and ask for us by name. Thanks so much, Tom. I really appreciate being interviewed by you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to the mid-roll thank yous. If you like the show, one of the best things you can do to help out is to leave a positive review, especially on Apple. Apple Media and iTunes is still like one of the big places to determine your ratings. So really appreciate the nice review from Car Campers and from Kirby B. Thanks a lot. Another thing you can do is to follow on whatever you listen on. So for those who followed on Podbean, CC Ryder, Mogiv Hicks, Quad 3J5, Norixon, and If Yaz His. Thanks a lot for following on Podbean. Thanks to Inspired Seeker 22 for the cheerful feedback on Instagram. Appreciated. If I didn't say your name just now and you hit like or gave me a review somewhere and I haven't found it yet, thank you. I appreciate it. If you know Oprah and know a way that she could be on my show for maybe 10 minutes tops and just share any story about bicycles and Oprah, I would like to be that guy who got that story. Raymond from this episode got me one step closer to Greg LeMond. Don't got him yet, but I'm one step closer. And if you know anybody in Greenland, just get them to hit the download button, please. Stickers are available for anyone who asks until I run out of stickers or run out of postage. Just send me an email at bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. That's bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. And helping me to do that a bit lately is Fred Thomas from Frame and Wheel and AD Bikes. Fred's been a long-time supporter of the show. He runs a business called The Frame and Wheel. And what they can do for you is give you more time, space, and money by helping you sell your bicycles, bicycle parts, and accessories online for you. Frame and Wheel provides eBay selling services to cyclists, bike shops, bike companies, bike racing teams, and cycling-related nonprofit organizations throughout New England. Fred knows his stuff. He loves bikes. With Frame and Wheel, you reach a broader market, obtain higher prices, and free yourself of all the hassle and stress related to selling your stuff. It's a lot simpler and easier to let an expert reseller like Frame and Wheel do the work for you. You can go check them out at theframeandwheel.com. That's theframeandwheel.com. And if you're on Facebook, search up Frame and Wheel and please hit that like button. Thank you. Now, back to the show. So a word that gets thrown around quite a bit in the bicycle-loving world these days is gravel. What's up with gravel? Well, we asked Raymond George of the Ohio Gravel Grinders, who's going to talk about gravel, gravel in Ohio, and gravel elsewhere.
So one of the fun things that I like to do when I'm out on a solo gravel ride, and I've done this in numerous places, is to find a spot that has an overlook where it's a really pretty view, and I actually pull out my camp kit and I make a cup of coffee and I hang out and enjoy the view, and it's really relaxing. We actually do coffee outside on many of our rides. We've kind of curbed it recently in the last 6 months, but I hope to pick that up again this year. And it's nice to actually, it's added weight, but it's nice to actually pull over and have lunch and talk. And you really do get to know more about people when you stop and actually take a moment to have a conversation and learn what they do, why they're out riding. You know, you learn about gear or what their passions are besides biking, and it's just nice to take a moment and actually do that. My name is Raymond George, and I am from Columbus, Ohio. I'm with the Ohio Gravel Grinders group, and we're a group that promotes riding your bikes on gravel roads to get away from the city, to get out and see the countryside, and I personally use it to exercise and reduce stress. Kind of been a meandering journey to get to this point. I moved here in 2007 to Columbus. My wife actually wanted to become a law librarian, so we sold our home and quit our jobs and moved to Columbus from the Ohio Valley. And before I moved here, we were riding gravel and doing some bike packing, doing a weekly ride in the hills around Ohio County, doing them at night, which was fun. We bought some lights and we'd go out and scare cars and have them move out of the way because they didn't know who we were. Not many people see bike lights out in the countryside. It was kind of fun to do that. So I moved here, started riding with some friends, met some people through my boss at my first job here in Columbus said, you might want to meet my friends that I've ridden with a few times, and they go out and ride in the countryside. And I did, and they ended up a bunch of retirees from Lucent, Alcatel, and I became friends with them and started doing road riding. Then one of the people I was riding with said, Ray, you should take a look at this group that's riding downtown doing urban rides. And I had never done that. I'd never lived in a big city. Columbus is almost 2.3 million people now. It's a top 15 city. I decided to go do this. It was a Monday night ride group. They start at 10 o'clock at night. So I show up. It's on the campus of Ohio State University, and there's got to be 140 people there. And they were sending a woman off. She was moving to Austin, and she's wearing cowboy boots and a skirt and no helmet, I believe. And I was wearing spandex and completely out of place, but I just rolled with it. So I went and rode with these folks, and we rode around town, and I ended up leading that group after the leader at the time had said he was done with it. I led it for about a year, and I learned how to ride around Columbus and navigate through Columbus by riding bikes. So I actually learned the whole city, best ways to get around, and in that time I met another cyclist. Cycling is actually great networking, who said, hey, I know this person that puts on these other rides. And prior to that, I had a friend come into town. We went down and were hanging out and watching bike races. And ironically, that person that she introduced me to was the person that ran those bike races. And I approached her, it was Annie, and I said, have you ever thought about putting on a citywide tour? And she said, no. I said, well, you're already shutting the street down. You know, I went and did Pedal Pittsburgh, and I got to see the city up and close and personal, kind of an intimate way to see a city. And I said, we don't have anything like that in Columbus. And she said, go ahead, let's do it. So in 2008, we did it. It was the first year we had 195 cyclists show up, and we went out and did some of the dumbest things. We went out and spray painted the turn signals with spray paint on the ground, 3-layer stencils. It took us 2 weeks, and then we had people got lost. And then the year after that, we kind of learned from that mistake and put up signs because people were looking up, not down. And the ride is still going. I actually, after 10 years, handed that off to Yay Bikes, which is a bicycle advocacy group here in Columbus. I actually was on the board of that for 4.5 years. It's still on the board, but I was the board president for 4.5 years. Over time, my friends that I was riding with, we were going out and just doing country rides. And one of my friends, Tim Christie, said, I have this route in the Hocking Hills, which is to the southeast of Columbus. He said, this one's got gravel on it. And I was excited because I have a Linsky gravel bike, and it's a cross bike. And threw some knobbies on it, and we went out for a ride. And then everybody was super excited about that, and slowly started developing those rides. In early 2012, we had our first official gravel grinder. We rode out in the Mohican area, which is in Loudonville. Actually, a Mohican 100 is a pretty famous mountain bike race. It's held there every year, and they've got great gravel roads there. Over time, I was just looking up on Ride with GPS routes that said gravel, and I found this route that said Collettsville or something gravel. And so I loaded into the GPS, and I went down and parked at this ball field, and I started riding up these gravel roads, and it was really beautiful. Went up through the Wilson Creek Gorge and did a loop, like almost 40 miles, and it was tiring, and I was exhausted, but it was beautiful, and I took a bunch of pictures and had to tell people about it, so I posted photos of it, and other people were excited about it, and I kept on going down, and one time I moved the start location for me. It made it a little bit easier to start at the bottom of that gorge, and I got out of the car, and I was getting ready, and all of a sudden all these other cars show up. I walked up and I said, are you guys gravel grinding? I said, yeah, we're going to go out on a group ride. And I said, well, you guys look a little bit faster than me. I said, I'd kind of try to keep up with you on the first part, and I'm sure you'll separate. But it was nice saying hi to you. And if you have a card, I'll reach out to you. And so the guy hands me the card, and he says, you ever hear of Defeat socks? And I said, sure, I'm wearing Woolly Bullies right now. And he said, well, I'm the owner. I founded this. So I ended up becoming friends with the guys from Defeat because of that, and some other Luna Cycles, which actually unfortunately has gone out of business, that were in Lenore. It's a good bike shop. And over time, I said, I tried to organize the ride that was that first gravel ride I found out of Collettsville was actually a famous gravel route called Maple Sally. And it goes up the Maple Grove Road, and I think there's another road that says Sally or something. They call it the Maple Sally. And it's 33 miles, and it looks like if you were to put your hand down, put a bunch of hands down, and you would see the outline of the switchbacks. It's miles and miles of switchbacks. So we go down, a couple years ago, and my friend Doug was with us. We go for a ride. It's in the fall. The route is up and down, curves, and we're riding along, and he goes, "You got to hold up." And I was like, "What's the matter?" And he said, "I lost my camera." So we double back and ride back up the hill. It's bumpy. We can't find it. Of course, it's fall, and the leaves are all orange and red. And his camera is an Olympus, and it's red with a red strap. So we look around for a bit, and we give up. We go back to camp. We don't give up, right? We get in the car. We drive the route backwards. We're looking out. We're all getting sick from the turns, from hanging out the window. Can't find this thing. We go to dinner. We give up on it. About a year later, I get a message through Facebook. "Hey, you might want to see this. I think somebody actually found Doug's camera." A television station in Charlotte had received a memory card. A man living on that road found the camera, pulled the memory card out, left the camera, which actually was found by somebody else and posted a picture of it. We just knew the memory card was gone. And he turned it into the television station, and we started seeing all the photos of us and our friends. And so a year later, his camera, his memory card shows up, and it goes almost, actually was shared nationally. It went out to all the different television stations through the network. And so it was really fun to see Doug's photos and us in photos, and it be a national story about finding a memory card after a year. And Doug sent down a package of Ohio-sourced products as a thank you to the man. We have not ever stopped by to see if we could find him, though. We've ridden it several times since then. We should probably stop by and say hi. So when people ask about what gravel riding or gravel grinding is taking your bike, and we always say, ride what you have, because we're always asked, oh, should I go get a gravel bike? And I kind of caution people against that until they've actually tried it and want to invest in anything that would be specific to it. Gravel riding is exactly what it sounds like. We go out and find gravel roads that are typically rural roads. If you're lucky and you live in a city that you could ride out of your back door in country onto the gravel roads, maybe if you live up in Colorado or in other northern states, that would be an ideal situation. In Columbus, we typically have to drive half an hour to 40 minutes, an hour to find gravel roads that we start our rides from. And the gravel roads are just that. They're gravel. There is actually an unofficial gravel rating system out there that we have on our website, and it ranges from gravel that's been crushed down, that it's almost like riding on a regular paved road, to roads that we've experienced that are potholes, muddy, with rock gardens that you would almost need a mountain bike to ride through. And so when we go out and ride and we take new people out, we typically take them to an area that we know is going to be sustained climbs, but it's not going to be too far out if they were to not want to continue. We have a great place just south of Columbus called Sida Trail State Park, and it's got a great 30-mile loop, but the loops actually it's kind of like a clover, so that you can actually jump off those loops if you do not want to continue riding. On our beginner rides, a couple months ago, we had about 50 people show up, and everything from old mountain bikes to old Trek steel mountain bikes that are no suspension to the latest and greatest that you can afford.
So even though it's called gravel, there's dirt, there's sand, there's stones. It basically means what people used to call dirt roads?
Yes. They can be fire roads. What people used to call dirt roads could comprise everything from cinders to gravel. We've ridden on ballast rock gardens, mud holes where you could lose a bike into. We've had people fall into them. They smell funny after that. There's a lot of connection routes that we have, connection sections that we use that could potentially be double track. Some people might call it mountain biking. We ride those double tracks. Those typically end up being a muddy ride. But the gravel is there, but it may not be prominent on every road that we're riding on. The big difference that I see between riding road and riding gravel, and what I've kind of gravitated towards gravel is the culture of the rides that I've actually led, whether it's in the city or it's in gravel. I always take the attitude that we don't drop anybody, and if there's any type of mechanical or medical issues, we always stop and make sure that people are taken care of. I'm typically the slowest rider anyway, so I end up being the sweep, and I think there is a great culture of people caring for each other. We don't get, and roadies might actually dispute this, there's snobbiness, I think, on the roadie side. Before I moved to Columbus, I tried to ride with roadies in the wheeling area, and all I got was dropped in attitude like, why can't you keep up? And to me, that's not nurturing somebody to continue riding, whether it's recreational or if you want to advance and become a racer. I see gravel rides here not necessarily as a feeder to people who want to go and race, but a lot of people who have ridden gravel with us, I see, are now actually looking into doing something more advanced. Like we've got friends who are going to ride Dirty Kanza now, or the Coast to Coast in Michigan, or the Barry Roubaix in Michigan. There are gravel roads pretty much, at least the states I've visited, and I think many people can experience gravel without too far of a drive. So it really is accessible. There is also, what I've heard, a lot of road riders are looking to gravel from a safety perspective. So I am part of a bicycle advocacy group, and I do think that in the Columbus area, cycling is actually getting safer, and there is more awareness of cyclists on the road. But there is a lot of trepidation for cyclists to ride city streets. They want to have separated bike facilities, like a shared use path or separated bike lanes. And on gravel roads, we see less traffic. There are connector roads that are paved that are main routes between towns, and there may be traffic on that. But for the most part, we're really experiencing low to no traffic when we're out on the rides. So, yes, I have felt like I've gotten out of my element on gravel rides. The same Maple Sally route that I have done a number of times. I did it a couple years ago on Valentine's Day. I bartered with my wife. She wanted to go see her family, and I said, I will drive you there if I'm allowed to take one day to go bike up in the mountains. And I started out in the valley, and the valley was 30 degrees, and I started riding up, and it's a climb out of that valley, up through the gorge, and it is amazing. It's a beautiful view, and it's got waterfalls and people kayak it and everything. And I get to the little store there, Betsy's store, which is a neat little place you can stop and get snacks and stuff. And I made the turn and started climbing up into the mountains, and as you get higher, of course, you're hitting like 3,500 feet maybe in that area. And the temperature dropped, and I felt like I was going hypothermic, and I ended up wearing 2 balaclavas and pedaling as fast as I could, muttering to myself, I'm not dying up on this mountain. Pedaled for all I had, and actually rode that route faster than any other time I had done it, and of course survived. But I think that was one situation where I felt like I was out of my element and had gone a little too far.
So if people want to find out more about riding gravel, and specifically more about riding gravel in Ohio, where would they go?
Well, we have a great resource for people who are looking for more information about riding gravel roads in Ohio and really beyond, because we actually have a lot of routes outside of Ohio. That information is available at our website at ohiogravelgrinders.com. And we're on Instagram. We're also on Facebook and Flickr. I post a lot of our photos up there. But all the information is on our website at ohiogravelgrinders.com. If you're interested in seeing some of the events that are going on in Ohio, we have an event section on our website at ohiogravelgrinders.com. It's at the top, click on events, and we typically have a spring event in March. We call it the Big Thaw. We also have a fall ride that's in the Shawnee area, and that's a fall color leaf peeping ride through the Shawnee Forest. It's really beautiful. But we have rides that pop up on a weekly basis with the group. On Facebook, if you're looking to join the conversation, we have a Facebook group, Ohio Gravel Grinders, and we have over 2,200 members there. I think we're the largest gravel grinding group on Facebook. At least that's from the research I've done. So feel free, if you're on Facebook, to log on and join our group and join into the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
The next story is about an event on the East Coast Greenway, and even if you're not near where this event is going to take place, it is an interesting concept about having a rolling museum.
The Bolton section of the East Coast Greenway in Bolton, Connecticut is a beautiful section which is fully ADA compliant. It is bluestone surface with a grade that only changes between 1 and 2 degrees. It's fully in the shade, and there are some beautiful things to see along the way. Hi, my name is Sylvia Ounpuu, and I am the co-chair of Bike Walk Bolton in Bolton, Connecticut. The Hop River Trail in Bolton is actually a former railway bed, and there's lots of rail history along the trail, but because of that, that's why it is a 1% grade. And there are rock cuts that were made for the train to go through, as well as high areas where you can look down, where they built up the earth to make the track for trains. So right at Bolton Notch, there is a tunnel that you need to go through to go towards Willimantic. It's very exciting to go through this tunnel and come out the other side, and you are in a rock cut with rock cliffs on either side that have evidence of the dynamite that was used to blast and put the railroad tracks in. And you can see old bridge infrastructure that was there in the 1800s, and then eventually that rock cut ends and you go into this beautiful birch forest. The Bike Walk Bolton is planning an event on Connecticut Trails Day, and it will be on Saturday, June 1st, between 1 and 4 p.m., starting at 12:30 p.m. And this is what we're calling Rockin' and Rollin' on the Hop. And this is a rolling museum, which will allow you to do a self-guided tour on the trail, which will have docents along the way, as well as signs that will help you learn about points of interest. Everything from the watershed divide that is right in the middle of the cut that you will be going through, to history of Rochambeau and the rail history, as well as the natural history of the places you will see, like the glacial erratic and certain wolf trees. So there's so much to learn and understand going along this trail. And this year, we're doing something completely new. We're trying to promote this event for people who have mobility challenges. The Hop River Trail is ADA compliant, and we are supporting people who will come with maybe adaptive cycles. They can actually sign up for an adaptive cycle in advance and be fitted for the cycle and be able to do the rolling museum with a cyclist to help them along the way and show them where to go and experience this amazing resource. Not all sections of the East Coast Greenway are ADA compliant. So we really have a gem here in Connecticut to be able to have this resource for all people to use. It's safe because it's not on the road, and it's a beautiful shaded environment that people can enjoy in the heat of the summer. 30 years ago, this rail bed was unimproved, and it was basically not usable and rather a sketchy place. But since the Army Corps of Engineers came in about 20 years ago and improved the surface, this is a world-class resource right here in Bolton, Connecticut. We actually operate a trail counter, and we have tens of thousands of people that actually use this trail annually, all year round. Because you can ride and walk and hike in the summer, and you can cross-country ski and snowshoe and walk in the winter. There's just limitless amount of activity that you can do to enjoy this trail all year round. And people are doing that, and we just want to make sure that more people know about that. So on our event on June 1st, people can also participate with Cycling Without Age. They need to sign up in advance, but this will allow people who are mobility challenged to ride in a rickshaw 2 at once with a driver, and the driver will take them through the rolling museum and stop wherever they want. This will be a great opportunity for people who may not be able to negotiate the trail on their own. This event on June 1st will provide opportunities for all people with movement disabilities, seniors who may be challenged to be able to get out on the trail, and they can sign up for adaptive bikes or the rickshaw, and all of this is for free. They just need to sign up in advance. To sign up for this event, if you have your own adaptive bicycle or any kind of bicycle, you can pre-register at ctwoodlands.org. and go to the Connecticut Trails Weekend event button for 2019. If you would like to sign up for an adaptive bike or to take part in the rickshaw, or otherwise known as trishaw, please email Barbara Amodio, it's all one word, at comcast.net. So that's Barbara, Amodio, at comcast.net, and we will put you in the schedule. So this event is a total of 5 miles. It's an out and back, so you can make it any distance that you want. You can shorten it up if that's what you can do, or go the full 5 miles. Totally up to you. Links to this event on June 1st can also be found on our Facebook group. So please go to Bike Walk Bolton and find out more information and join us if you like.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom.
She asked me to quickly add that the best parking is off of 384. Well, you got to the end of another episode of the Bike Karma Bicycle Podcast. As always, I'd like to thank Keller Glass and the band Mobjack for our opening and closing theme music. You can check them out at mobjackmusic.com or anywhere you listen to music. All of our other music is royalty-free, and thank you to those artists as well. A big thank you to Eben, Maria, and Ray for sharing their stories on the show. Thanks to all the folks who have downloaded in all 50 states and over 50 countries. I truly appreciate you being a part of this. And speaking of this community, if you'd like to be in our Strava club, go check it out. It's the Bike Karma Strava Club. You can hear people from the show and see how they do on their bikes. And whether it's through that club or elsewhere, I'm thinking of doing Ragbri this year. That's the ride across Iowa that everybody talks about, like everywhere. As long as I get in the lottery, I'm going to be collecting stories and giving out some cool stuff probably. And I would love to meet up with anybody who listens to the show who's also doing Ragbri this year. If you want to get a hold of me with ideas for the show, maybe get some stickers, which I'm happy to send you, or if you're a potential sponsor with a product that might fit on the show, you can email me at bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. That's bikekarmaguy@gmail.com. Apart from the music, the Bike Karma podcast is the intellectual property of Thomas Brown. All rights, including trademarks and copyrights, are reserved and asserted. We've got a lot of amazing stories coming up over the next few months, and I appreciate you waiting in the queue if your story is waiting to be produced. I try and put some love into each episode, so hopefully it'll turn out good. Hey, I'm gonna go for a bike ride.
Did you do your ABC quick check?
No, I forgot. I got these bad allergies.
Okay, A stands for air, B stands for brakes, C stands for chain, then you do your quick releases and a quick overall check.
Why you do all that stuff?
So you can stay safe.
Alright, until next time, Taryn.
See you later.
See you later? That's not how we end the show.
See you later.
See you later. And keep it.
Oh no.
Keep it. Keep it. Keep it.
Alright.
Keep it.
Keep it wheel.
I hate saying that. Can you just say that part? That's your catchphrase.
It is my catchphrase. Keep it wheel.